Captain Sarah Reaper Kane hung suspended in the Zephyrian interrogation chamber, energy restraints crackling around her wrists and ankles. Blood trickled from a cut above her left eye, but her expression remained defiant as she stared at her captors. The three Zephyrian officers stood before her, their elongated skulls gleaming under the harsh purple lighting, mandibles clicking in what she'd learned was their equivalent of laughter. "Look at this pathetic creature," sneered Commander Velkash, his forearms gesturing dismissively at the bound human. "The mighty Terran Defense Force sends us this tiny, soft-skinned weakling to defend their precious colony on Kepler 186 FA. Intelligence Officer Zixara consulted her bioscanner, her secondary arms manipulating the device, while her primary hands remained clasped behind her back. Fascinating. No cybernetic enhancements, no genetic modifications, no neural implants. How did this species ever achieve spaceflight? The third officer, weapons specialist Drac Moore, picked up Sarah's confiscated sidearm and examined it with obvious disdain. Their technology is primitive. Chemical propellants and kinetic projectiles. We stopped using such crude weapons 3,000 years ago. Sarah said nothing, her green eyes tracking each movement as the aliens continued their examination. She'd been captured during the evacuation of the research station when her dropship had been shot down. Her squad was dead. The colonists were either captured or scattered across the hostile planet, and these three were clearly enjoying having a live human to study. "I wonder," Velkash mused, his mandibles twitching with amusement, "what makes humans think they can compete with superior species? Perhaps it's ignorance, or mere stupidity. The psychological profiles suggest they suffer from something called overconfidence," Zixara replied, scrolling through data on her scanner. "They believe themselves capable of anything, despite obvious physical and technological limitations." Drac Moore activated Sarah's weapon, studying its simple mechanism. "Look at this. No plasma cells, no particle accelerators. How do they expect to fight us with such toys?" That's when Sarah finally spoke, her voice calm and steady despite her situation. "You want to know what makes humans dangerous?" The three Zephyrians turned to her in surprise. They'd been speaking in their native language, assuming she couldn't understand. But Sarah's neural pattern suggested she'd been following every word. "You speak our language?" Velkash asked, his tone shifting from amusement to interest. 3 years in Zephyrian POW, camps will teach you a few things," Sarah replied with a cold smile, "including how your species thinks. You're analytical, logical, methodical. You study everything from every angle before you act. And this is somehow inferior?" Zixara challenged. "Not inferior," Sarah said, testing the strength of her restraints as she spoke. "Just predictable. See, while you were busy cataloging my weaknesses and mocking human technology, you made one critical error." Drac Moore's mandibles clicked with derision. "And what error was that, little human?" Sarah's smile widened. "You assumed I was captured by accident." The explosion that followed rattled the entire Zephyrian command ship. Alarms began blaring throughout the vessel as secondary explosions rippled through the lower decks. Velkash spun toward his communication console, his voice rising in panic. "Engineering. Report." Static answered him for several seconds before a terrified voice responded. "Commander, we have multiple hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. The humans, they're inside the ship." Zixara's bioscanner was going haywire, detecting massive energy signatures throughout the vessel. "Impossible. Our sensors showed no other human vessels in the system." Sarah laughed, a sound that sent chills through her captors. "That's because they weren't in the system. They were already aboard your ship. Have been for 3 days, actually." The revelation hit the Zephyrians like a physical blow. Drac Moore raised his energy weapon towards Sarah, but she continued speaking, completely unperturbed by the threat. "You see, while you were studying humans like lab specimens, you missed something important about our psychology. We don't just adapt to new situations, we plan for them. Every human soldier carries something called contingency protocols. Plans within plans within plans." Another explosion shook the ship, closer this time. Through the chamber's viewport, the Zephyrians could see human assault shuttles emerging from what had appeared to be empty space, their stealth systems finally deactivating. "My capture wasn't an accident," Sarah continued. "It was Phase 1. While you were focused on me, my people were infiltrating your ship, studying your technology, and preparing to turn your own weapons against you." Velkash's voice cracked with disbelief. "But our sensors were hacked 6 hours ago," Sarah interrupted. "We've been feeding you false readings ever since. Those primitive humans you were mocking, they include some of the best cybernetic specialists in the galaxy. Turns out our crude technology includes a few tricks you haven't seen before." The interrogation chamber's doors exploded inward, revealing two figures in advanced combat armor. Staff Sergeant Miguel Santos and Corporal Lucy Chen stepped through the smoking doorway, their weapons trained on the 3 Zephyrian officers. "Took you long enough," Sarah said conversationally, as Chen began cutting through her restraints with a plasma torch. "Sorry, Cap," Santos replied. His voice filtered through his helmet's comm system. "Had to make sure we got all their comm arrays first. Wouldn't want them calling for backup." Drakmor raised his weapon toward the humans, but Santos was faster. A single shot from his railgun sent the Zephyrian spinning across the chamber, his weapon clattering uselessly to the floor. "Here's the thing about humans," Sarah said as she rubbed feeling back into her wrists. "We don't just fight wars, we think them through. Every engagement, every mission, every apparent failure is just another data point in a larger strategy." Zixara's bioscanner had finally stabilized, but the readings it showed made no sense. "Your ship. There are hundreds of humans aboard our vessel." "How?" "Stealth insertion over the past week," Chen explained as she handed Sarah her gear. "Every time you thought you were shooting down one of our shuttles, you were actually allowing our people to board using micropods. Your own particle beams masked their heat signatures." Velkash slumped in his command chair, the weight of his tactical failure crushing his spirit. "We underestimated you." "That's what everyone does," Sarah replied, checking her weapons charge. "They see our size, our technology, our apparent limitations, and they think we're easy prey. They forget that humans are the species that turned persistence, hunting into an art form. We don't win because we're stronger or faster or smarter than everyone else." She moved toward the chamber's exit, her team flanking her with professional efficiency. "We win because we never stop adapting, never stop planning, and never, ever fight fair when survival is on the line." As the 3 humans disappeared into the corridor, Velkash could hear the sounds of his crew surrendering throughout the ship. In less than an hour, the Zephyrians had gone from confident captors to prisoners of war, victims of their own arrogance and humanity's most dangerous weapon, the ability to turn any situation into an advantage. The last thing he heard, before the human boarding parties reached the bridge, was Sarah Kane's voice over the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Kane of the Terran Defense Force. Your vessel is now under human control. Prepare to be boarded." In the depths of space, the Zephyrian command ship continued its journey, but now it flew under a human flag, carrying its former crew toward an uncertain future and a hard lesson about underestimating Earth's children.